Ahika for me represents the continuation of our mana whenua here in Tāmaki.
If you can't demonstrate that you have maintained your occupation, your ahikata areas, then you don't have mana whenua. It's as simple as that.
There's only one mana whenua within the 19 iwi who has ahikaroa and tangata whenua status within the central Tāmaki area, and that's us.
Ahika literally means keeping your fires warm. Most Māori understand that. To have any authority, tribal authority, any claim to a place, you must keep your home fires burning, literally. That's probably the strongest way that one can demonstrate that they have mana and authority over a particular geographic area.
In order to have real mana whenua, you've got to have ahika. Ahika talks about the everyday relationship that you have to your whenua, the fact that you're there cultivating gardens, that you're there building whare, that you're burying your dead, that you're celebrating life. So that's the ahika that goes with the physicalness of the environment, which is the whenua, so that there's tangata whenua. When you put ahika and tangata whenua together, you have a number of things which come out of that. One is you have authority over the land, because you are the people who live on that land. You actively give that relationship relevance. It gives it a visibility. That gives you authority over the land, mana whenua. It gives you mana over the sea and waterways too, mana moana. More importantly, it gives you authority over the people. People, namely manuhiri or rāwaho, who come into your domain, and that becomes mana tangata.
Whānau, whānau, hara mai te toki, hauie, huie.
For us here in Ōrākei, for Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei, that's meant we've never left. We've been here for forever. We never went away and came back. We've just stayed on. Ahika for me represents the continuation of our mana whenua here in Tāmaki.
I guess we've seen in recent decades that term mana whenua really become quite diluted and even corrupted, where we've seen lots of tribes claim that they are also mana whenua of particular places in Tāmaki and in other regions as well, on the basis that they have whakapapa or historic connections to particular places. However, if you can't demonstrate that you have maintained your occupation, your ahikata areas, then you don't have mana whenua. It's as simple as that.
We've got an environment where there is no tikanga within Tāmaki Makaurau. That's from a government point of view. The government has said there is no tikanga. There is no tangata whenua with primacy. We will treat everyone as mana whenua, because mana whenua is an easy concept to recalibrate from a Western point of view. But that's mana whenua without ahikaroa. There's only one mana whenua within the 19 iwi who has ahikaroa and tangata whenua status within the central Tāmaki area, and that's us.
2006, many of the other tribes who claim interest in Tāmaki stopped our treaty settlement process. When our agreement in principle was announced, we had agreed with the Crown for maungi kia, puke tāpapa, puke wiwi, maunga whau to be transferred to us, and that we would have a right of first refusal over our heartland, which is modern-day central Auckland. At the process hearing of the Waitangi Tribunal, the judge wrote a report more or less saying that Auckland's history is unique, it's complex, there are lots of layers of interest, and all layers are valid and equal. And really on the back of that, we saw the Crown policy, Office of Treaty Settlements on cross-claims, totally change.
Cross-claims or overlapping claims or overlapping interests, as they're called, are when the Crown is looking at a treaty settlement decision and there are one or more iwi or hapu who claim an interest in the same area. The Crown says that it likes iwi to sort out overlapping claims amongst themselves. However, that's not always possible because of clashing histories and kōrero and things like that. And in that situation, the Crown says that they simply must make a decision about the treaty settlement and will end up offering a particular site to one iwi or the other.
Our experience is people claim an interest, they fished here, they paddled past, they lost a battle even, and on the basis of that, the Crown has been amounting those historic interests into rights, which then turn into treaty settlement offers like statutory acknowledgements, which go into legislation, which influences local government policy like parks management plans, etc., which has now influenced Auckland Council mana whenua engagement policy, where they now invite 19 people and call them mana whenua. And as we've seen, offer land in our heartland like Waipapa, like Taurarua, to Marutuahu, a group of 5 tribes out of Thames, and Te Tai, who are the descendants of Kiwi Tāmaki, who was killed in battle by Waha Apiaki at Paruroa during the invasion.
In 2011, when we signed our deed of settlement, we had a very clear area that was part of our settlement. And as part of the apology from the Crown to Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei, there was an acknowledgement, or I think the term is an atonement, of the recognition of the area that we settled. And of course, the 2 properties that have been offered to other iwi are right in our heartland. We know the history of Taurarua, we know the history of Waipapa.
We've tried to talk to the other iwi about doing this kanohi to kanohi, and that's been very important. But for me, it didn't even have to go that far. If the government would have kept to the promises that they made earlier. You know, I escorted a group of kaumātuas to Wellington many, many years ago to hear an apology by the Crown and a recognition that Ngāti Whātua held the mana whenua of Tāmaki. I still remember the tears I could see from my elders it was unbelievable, the happiness that you could see in the way they were crying, and they were demonstrating that healing. It was just a pleasure to see. Now, I just feel so hurt because we go back to court again. What about that apology that was given to us, with that recognition that was given to us? Now we're crying because we have to go back and do this all over again.
We've got a real good generosity of spirit as Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei. We got takaparawhau back and we shared it with other Aucklanders. We shared our land with Hobson. We shared our papakainga with Ngāti Tiata, with Ngāti Pāo, Ngāti Hura, when they wanted to trade in Auckland. We shared management and title over the volcanic cones as a way that other iwi with legitimate interests let them start their settlement journeys. However, when it came to particular lands in our heartland being offered to tribes as part of their individual settlement, we just said that it's too much. We can't stomach this anymore, really.
The Supreme Court basically said that they didn't agree with the Court of Appeal and the High Court decision. So they said, actually, there is a case here. They need to be given the opportunity to argue their case. That's why they put it back to the High Court.
In this case, Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei is the plaintiff. That means it's their case. They are bringing the case to court. The Crown is the first defendant and Marutuahu is the second defendant. Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei is asking the court for declarations about its tikanga in Tāmaki Makaurau. It's also asking the court for declarations about the Crown's treaty settlement policy and about the meaning and effect of Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei's treaty settlement. Over the last decade or two, the courts have been starting to dabble in tikanga and its place in the law of Aotearoa, but in this case, Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei is asking the court to directly decide the meaning of tikanga in the law of New Zealand and the Crown's obligations to respect it. We're not talking about the grey areas, we're talking about the very heart of Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei's rohe, where it says there are no grey areas about ahika.
Tikanga Māori must be taken into account by the Crown when they're making decisions such as this. And in particular, given they signed a treaty settlement with us in 2012, where they gave certain undertakings to respect Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei tikanga, then we would say them transferring land out of our heartland without our approval is a breach not only of tikanga Māori, it's definitely a breach of tikanga Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei, and it's a breach of the law because they signed a treaty settlement with us. So really that's probably at the crux of the case.
What upsets me about this current situation is that the government will continue to promote environments which are unhealthy for iwi. Unhealthy from a cultural point of view, unhealthy from an economic point of view, unhealthy from a social point of view. We want to get on with our neighbours. We want to know and better know and get on with our whanaunga. But that's a very, very difficult task in this environment. And that's driven by government. And the fact that government can't be bothered putting their thinking cap on and actually looking at the practicalities of where tikanga and LAW law can actually exist in the same space. The connection to Taurarua and to Waipapa, Manga Hekea, Horotiu, they're very simple. They come from the time when Tāmaki was conquered through the raupatu of Tāmaki by our tupuna from Kaipara. This was after Kiwi being killed at Parurua and the big battle, which is now known as Te Rangi Hinga Hingatahi, the day that they all fell and died. This is actually a part of the second wave where we find that there's a relationship between our people and that whenua.
The significance of Taurarua and Waipapa, yes, they are in our heartland. You know, between the marae and where we're doing this interview, can literally do a $1.20 scooter ride to these places, you know, long way from Thames.
Yes, the area was used by many, but I don't understand how people can claim mana whenua when they didn't stay and they went away. So for us, it's a kick in the guts that when we settled and we got the apology and we got this acknowledgement that they now decide that these two that are in our heartland, right on our doorstep, can be part of another settlement. And that's why we're saying, e kore e riro, no more.
For Ngāti Whātua in particular, they have a history of compromising with the Crown to Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei's detriment. That began in 1840 when they gifted the 3,000 acres that we're sitting on right now to Governor Hobson on the expectation that that land came with reciprocal obligations. The Crown would establish a capital here that would be good for the whole of the new colony, and that would also be good for Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei to explore new opportunities with the colonial government. The rest is history, as it were. Treaty breaches, landlessness for Ōrākei, and now Ōrākei are going to court to enforce its treaty settlement. This has occurred in the particular context of Tāmaki Makaurau, but that will not be a unique story for only Ngāti Whātua. This is the deal for many iwi across the country. So Ōrākei's case is one of the first court cases attempting to enforce the future-looking aspects of its treaty settlement. The treaty settlement contains promises to respect and have a mutually beneficial ongoing relationship with the Crown. And Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei's view is that the Crown has not lived up to those promises, and it will ask the court to decide what those promises mean.
There's a basic building block that's missing in the thinking of the government, and it's that you can't just apply some parts of Te Ao Māori to a legal process, but leave out one key part, which is tikanga.
The Bastion Point occupation was a peaceful occupation. I mean, the wharenui was called Aroha Nui. The only time it became ugly or aggressive was when they evicted us. The aggressiveness didn't come from our people. It came from those that were given the job to evict. So I don't think there would ever be another Bastion Point, but of course the legacy and the foundation that our tupuna and our uncles and our aunties, our nannies and our nanny-pas, what they left us from Bastion Point certainly gives us that strength.
We have stood up against the might of the Crown, and we're not big men, but let them come and try and evict us off here. We'll have so many people on Bastion Point.
In many ways, this is nothing new. It is 3 to 4 century old toing and froing in terms of competition for mana and influence. And this is another chapter in that, and it's a chapter that we have to write. It's a chapter that Uncle Joe and Sir Hugh, Ani Pihema and Ruby Gray wrote. Really, I see very many similarities. What we're having to do now is what they had to contend with then. And what we're up against is, you know, a very skilled, complex, well-resourced machine that is the government and the Crown.
I think there are seeds here which, if they're left to grow, and these are the seeds of probably frustration of this generation, yeah, it could be another takaparafo.
If anything that we can take away from the occupation on Bastion Point is how resilient our whānau are. And when they are united, they're a force to be reckoned with.
Ko te pūtaki o tēnei hīkoi, he whakaatu ki te kāwanatanga, kia marutuahu kia waiake rānei, e he ana tā te kāwanatanga tukutuku noiho i o tātou whenua. Nā reira, kia kitea e te kāwanatanga, kia kitea e marutuahu, te kaha o te kotahitanga o Ngāti Whātua, mai Tāmaki ki Maunga Nui, mai Maunga Nui ki Tāmaki, kia kitea e rātou te kotahitanga o tēnei iwi me ēnei hapu, ki te whawhai, ki te pupuru tonu i Ōrākei whenua, mana whenua, mana tangata, tai atu ki te moana.
To be able to walk from our marae to the High Court certainly should send a message to everyone that if we can walk it, and I'm talking from our babies to Ōkahu Matua, then, you know, that is the strength of our belief that the whenua is important to us. The Hīkoi is not about turning up and trying to unsettle the court proceeding. That's not the intent. The intent is to show the mana of Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei, and that we are unified and that we are strong, and we will not be as generous as we have been in the past. Enough is enough.
Whatever decision's made can be appealed by whichever side, so it may not be over for a long time yet. However, if we aren't successful in this fora, doesn't mean we're not ahi kara mana whenua, doesn't mean we're not going to welcome people again at the various hui, pōheri, openings, blessings. That mahi carries on, and we will keep stating and reminding and forcefully demonstrating to people aha kua te aha, no mātou ke te mana o tēnei rohe.
I'm really proud of our iwi. I'm proud of my people. I'm proud of our tupuna. I'm proud of our history. I've only got one iwi, Ngāti Whātua. I was born Ngāti Whātua, I die Ngāti Whātua. And while I'm here, that's the flag that I fly. In terms of our people and what they've done, right from our board through to the people on the ground, the boots on the ground, our kai karanga, our kai waiata, our people in the kitchens. You know, I got nothing but admiration and love.
Really inspired by the whānau coming together in recent months, or recent years really, as we're, uniting and building our strength and unity. This is our turn now to have to grab the paddle.
Proud is probably not strong enough of how I feel about Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei. We are a strong people, but we're also very humble. And what I am proud of is the fact that our younger generation are taking the head of our kaumātua and our tupuna, are standing up and finally saying, no more for us, I'm getting emotional now. And I would love for our kaumātua to go knowing that we're okay. I would love for them to be able to go to our other loved ones knowing that Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei is in good hands, and we are building a strong foundation and whānau for our future.